There's a quote, and you've probably heard it before. I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. And Arc Raiders proves this quote right every single day. Because I'm sure you've noticed by now, if you've ever died with your best gear on, and you check the after combat report, and there he is, the Kettle 1 demon. The man who destroyed you with a Kettle 1, a gun you didn't even think did damage. And the only thing you can think is, how is that even possible? Skill diff? Sure, we could go with that, but honestly, I think that's oversimplifying. Those kinds of players aren't crazy good because they're gifted. They're cracked because they've been doing the same exact kit for hundreds of fights, over and over and over. They're not experimenting, they're not swapping guns and testing them every match. They have somehow mastered this tiny set of tools. Meanwhile, you're switching between the Anvil, the Renegade, Arpeggio, the Venator, and whatever else you can get your hands on. But this kind of gearing kind of leads you to only scratching the surface of what each gun can do, but all hope is not lost. There is a fix for this. Every kit in Arc Raiders has a rhythm, a personality, and a timing. And when you hop between guns all the time, you never get past that phase where everything feels okay. Meanwhile, the players who stick with a tiny kit, they know everything. They know their weapon swap delays, they know their reload timings, they know the recoil patterns, they know their fire rates, they know the perfect range, they know whether a single magazine will take someone's shields down, they know the exact moment that they should switch to their secondary, and they know when it's better to just sit there and reload. They aren't thinking about it, and they're not even really guessing. At that point, their kit is basically an extension of their body, and that's why you're losing duels that should be even or where you should have the advantage. And I'm going to be real with you guys for just a second. Most players don't know a single thing about their guns, not deeply anyway. Yeah, you might know the effective range of your gun, you definitely know the ammo type, but do you know how fast can you fire before dispersion ruins your shots? How long does it take to swap to your weapon? When will reloading kill you? What's the perfect range for your gun? This is a lot of stuff that people ignore, and it's exactly where these Kettle 1 players get their unfair advantage, because they're not really thinking about these things anymore. Can I spam my anvil at this range? They already know, because they've done it 1,000 times. And here's the part nobody wants to hear, but you do need to spend a little time in the practice range. And no, I'm not saying you spend hours in there, there's really not much to do there anyway. And we're not really there to grind, but you need to be there long enough to know your gun's limits. You need to get used to the recoil. How fast can you shoot before it becomes hard to hit anything? How long does it take to reload, or does it make more sense to switch to your other weapon? Knowing these things will change how you play. For example, if you know your reload is really long and your secondary weapon's not good to swap to, you know that if they're pushing you, you're gonna have to try to reposition while reloading because you just won't have time. But if you don't know these timings, then you're gambling every single fight. What you want to develop here is mastery. And it's not about being perfect, it's just about removing as many unknowns as you can to give yourself the best chance at survival. And yes, you should do this every time you're using a new gun, because in this game the difference between a Venator 1 and a Venator 4 is a lot of fire rate, and if you're not shooting that Venator as fast as you should be, you might as well be using a Venator 1 the whole time. This brings me to the biggest mistakes people are making that cause them to lose gunfights. The first and probably biggest offender is firing guns way slower than you should be. You'd be surprised how many people undershoot their gun because they're afraid of recoil, or they just simply don't know that their gun shoots that fast. This is almost exclusively a semi-auto gun problem, things like the Renegade or the Anvil, even the shotguns. But for guns that you burst fire, there's also a similar concept here. Number two, which is kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, is shooting too fast when you should be burst shooting or just shooting slower. Believe it or not, a rattler can kill people at range, but probably not if you're spraying. If you're having trouble knowing what your dispersion is, I would try switching your crosshair to the circle or something that shows you the dispersion more clearly. The default crosshair kind of sucks for that. Personally, I use the circle. Mistake number three, it's kind of 2 in 1, reloading when you should have swapped, or vice versa, swapping when you should have reloaded. This type of thing is why we go in the practice range, because you really have to feel it to understand it. And the last mistake is not being conscious of what type of gun you're using. Using an Anvil 1 is painfully slower than using an Anvil 4, and if you forget that mid-fight, you might end up using your Anvil 4 as if it was an Anvil 1. And for all of you who have been in that situation, it is a death sentence. So you should try to make a mental note of what your guns are before every round, and hopefully your brain does the rest of the work. It's probably a good time for me to mention that these Kettle 1 demons, they're almost always free kit users. And these people usually spam free kits all day long, so these players are just spamming the Kettle, the Rattler, the Stitcher, and the Pharaoh their entire career. So yes, they mastered that a long time ago. And when you master one kit, just one, something changes in your brain. Because once things become second nature, you just stop worrying about them. On a subconscious level, you'll stop panicking, you'll stop hesitating, you stop second guessing your gun and its fire rate, you stop dying to players you're actually better than, and you just start winning more fights because you know what your gun can do, you know when not to challenge, you know the perfect time to swap for your kit, you know how far you can push and whether you'll have enough damage to do the rest of their health bar, and you'll just generally know when a fight is yours and yours to win. It's the exact same thing Bruce Lee said: master one thing deeply and you'll beat all those players who have mastered nothing. So if you're tired of these Kettle demons killing you, just stop spreading yourself thin. Pick a kit, it almost doesn't matter what it is, and commit to it. Learn its timings and its rhythm, because once that becomes second nature, I promise you are going to be doing so much better. Your confidence will skyrocket, your mistakes are going to slowly vanish, and then suddenly everything's going to start clicking. Before you know it, you'll find yourself mastering other parts of the game now that your brain doesn't have to think about your gun all day. If you found this video helpful, give it a like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this in the future. If you guys want breakdowns of specific kits, let me know in the comments and I will cover that next. I will see you guys next time.